And we are live on United Public Radio Network, UPRN 107.7 FM New Orleans. How cool is that? To all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave para peeps on this side of the veil, welcome. This is Father Shawn's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Father Shawn Whittington. I'm an ordained Catholic priest with the United States Old Catholic Church. I'm a fully professed brother with the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary. I'm a team member of Society of St. Benedict and co-founder of GhostBegone.biz. And yes, I'm that guy on Eli Roth Presents the Legion of Exorcists on Travel Channel, currently streaming everywhere. So if you haven't seen it, it's not hard to find. And for all of you that continue to discover it in the streaming world and reaching out to me with and giving me such support for the show, God bless you for that. It means a lot to me. So what else I want to tell you guys? If there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. There you will find everything that you need to know about us if you have any questions. My books are there. If you purchase the books off of the website, they come autographed and arrive to you in a house blessing kit. If you get them off of Amazon, they're a little less expensive. They're also available in audio, so that's very cool. But off of the website, part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my books goes to support stjude.org and the ASPCA, so that is a beautiful thing. My online course is there if you're interested in enrolling in that. And what else? There's a place where you can make an appointment to speak with me about your spiritual issues. Not paranormal, but spiritual. And that's my song and dance, and I'm sticking to it. Something else besides having a great guest today, and I know that's why you all tuned in, God bless each and every one of you for tuning in, because I don't have a show without you guys. So he's waiting patiently in the green room. But before I bring him out, another great thing that I love about my Friday show is my awesome co-host, who I obviously gave her what I had. So now she's a little under the weather. She's trying to fight it. So let's say a prayer for her and hope she makes it through the show. She is the owner of Stellium Books. She's my publisher. She's also a dear friend. I've known her forever. I love her. I respect her. She's a lifelong paranormal experiencer and enthusiast. Please welcome to the show the one and only Annette Munich.
Hi, Shawn. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. Yeah, I did manage to get sick this week, and so if I start coughing or something, I am doing my best. But I wanted to be here for our guest today. I'm very excited about him. I got to meet him just this week. I didn't know him from before. So it sounds really amazing, and I'm really excited about it.
He is amazing, and I haven't chatted with him in a while, so I can't wait for that. Before we jump into the prayer urn and the mailbag, is there any announcements you'd like to make other than you're really sick?
Not really. Called Into Darkness has been doing really well. If people didn't get that one and read it or listen to our episode, because we had Krista Florio and his wife on, and that's this book.
Very, very cool.
And they were on a few months ago. If anyone looks through the archives, fascinating couple, fascinating book. He was ex-NYPD, and she was also NYPD paramedic. And they came across the paranormal, and it changed their life.
Very, very cool.
I have this book sitting by me too. I wonder who wrote that. I don't
know. Yeah, my two books are God, Ghost, and the Paranormal Ministry, and God, Ghost, and the Paranormal Ministry 2. And I may just, I hear a rumor. I'm not going to, no real breaking news here, but I hear a rumor there might be a 3 in the works, because the series is 3, I would imagine. 2 doesn't really make a series. So
I think 3 is a wonderful number. And I want to tell people that Shawn's stories are some of the scariest stories I ever read. The book is just incredible. Both of the books are actually a collection of his cases, one after the other. It's not like a big long story where he starts, I was born, XYZ. No, these are his cases. And it's completely unpredictable. What's going to happen next? Real page turners and all true. So, everybody that's ever read Shawn's books, they always have a lot of good to say about it. They're just a collection of his stories.
Thank you very much for that. So
And
there may be a third.
people can get them on Amazon, and we also have it now in audiobook, and we have it on Kindle. So, and also through Shawn's website.
Are you ready to check the prayer urn?
I am. That's enough plug, right?
It was full this week. There's a couple still in there. I have been praying for a lot of people this week. This is from Janice S. in New York.
Hi,
Janice. I'm not religious, but I do believe in God. I also believe in the devil and demons. I have committed a sin that I feel may have caused some malevolent entities to attach to me. Suggestions? Well, that's not good, Janice. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to offer up a nice prayer of protection for you and for everybody listening to the show. And my advice would be go to your nearest Catholic church, even if you're not Catholic. Talk to the priest. Go to confession, confess your sin, attend Mass. If you're not Catholic and you don't want to receive communion, at least attend Mass, learn some Catholic prayers, and let's start there. Reach out to me, send me a message on how that's going. But let me offer up a nice prayer of protection for you. Okay, this is a good one. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. In his name, and by the power of his cross and blood, I ask Jesus to bind any evil spirits, forces, and powers of the earth, air, fire, or water, of the netherworld, and the satanic forces of nature. By the power of the Holy Spirit, and by his authority, I ask Jesus Christ to break any curses, hexes, or spells, and send them back to where they came from, if it be his holy will. I beseech thee, Lord Jesus, to protect us by pouring thy precious blood on us, my family, which thou hast shed for us, and I ask thee to command that any departing spirits leave quietly, without disturbance, and go straight to thy cross, to dispose of as thou seest fit. I ask thee to bind any demonic interaction, interplay, or communications. I place Janice, her family, and everyone listening to this broadcast now, all under the protection of the blood of Jesus Christ, which he shed for us. Amen.
Amen.
Keep me posted, Janice, on your situation. Get to a Catholic priest and have confession. You ready for the
You know what?
mail?
I wanted to, while we're doing prayers, I want to just really implore people to remember the victims of Hurricane Helene and what a huge disaster that is. And we have our listeners at 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and they understand this all too well. And I myself was living in Joplin when that tornado went through. And I will never forget what that looked like for the rest of my life. And right now, FEMA's saying that they're out of money. And on top of that, they are still in search and rescue. A week later, they have over 200 people dead. They have people missing. We have an election coming up in 1 month. It's going to be really easy for all of this to get backburnered and everybody just to go on with life. And we really, really can't do that. There's two things we could do that don't cost any money. One is keep praying every day for these people. And the second thing is keep up with the news on this. Keep asking questions. Don't just let it, get glossed over and go back to thinking about the election and P. Diddy stuff and things like that, because these people are in a really bad way. It's just absolutely awful. And Ryan Hall, I'm going to give a free plug to somebody. Ryan Hall Young on YouTube. He gives excellent weather coverage. He stays on the air during severe weather, and he collects money, and he sends truckfuls of stuff to disaster sites all across the country, hurricanes, tornadoes. So you can go there and you can keep up with the weather. He will sit in his chair for hours and hours, and give people warnings to get out of harm's way. And then he has a relief effort. So if you don't know where to give money, you can give it to him, and it'll be in good hands, and you will get good weather coverage if you subscribe to him and follow his site.
Yeah, I was just watching the news just before I came in here for the show, and some of the news coverage of that area just devastating. So yeah, um, I will continue to pray for those people. I already have a lot this past week, but
Right.
I will continue to do that too. Thank you for that, Annette. It's just heartbreaking. Mailbag. This is Gil, Gil N from California.
Hi,
Oh,
Gil.
well, so we have Janice in New York and now Gil in California, coast to coast.
How
We're
about it?
coast we're coast to coast today.
There you
Pun in,
go.
pun intended. Love the show. Thank you, Gil. I'm thinking about becoming a ghost hunter. How does one get started? I believe in ghosts. Okay, well, you know what? I'm not even going to answer that other than saying, Gil, send me a message later. I'll, let me know where you're at. You need to get together with a team and get some training. Don't just go out there on your own winging it.
Right.
Other than that, just when you start doing it, respect the locations, respect the ghosts, don't provoke, don't have to spend a ton of money on equipment. But what I'll do is let me know where you live, and I'll try and find a team in your area that will take you on and give you some training, unless you already know of one. But this is a great question to run past our guest today, so I'm going to leave it right here in front of me. Are you ready to meet this guy?
I am so ready.
Well, I am too. I love him and respect him. I've known him a long time. He's a lifelong paranormal experiencer and authority, an elite paranormal investigator. He is the producer and host of Dark Fringe Radio. He just came out with a new book, and he's just a really cool dude. You all know him and all love him. That's why you tuned in. Please welcome to the show the one and only Will Martinez.
Oh, thank you so
Hi,
much.
Will.
You guys are blowing up my head here. That's a hell of an introduction.
And you
Thank
know
you,
what?
Rev, for that.
He would be a great person to answer that question we just got.
Yeah, yeah.
He
I
would
was.
be the perfect person to answer that question.
Go
Thank you,
for
Annette.
it,
Yeah.
Will. Go for it.
I couldn't disagree with you, Rev, as much. I mean, it's exactly right. You need to get with somebody who has experience in this. Don't wing it. The worst thing you could do is wing it, because you can be inviting things that you have no idea what you're getting yourself into, and opening yourself up to things that you have no idea what you're messing with. So, yes, I would say follow the Rev's advice and get with a group that has experience in this. And of course, you always want to respect the areas that you are visiting, so on and so forth, because again, you're opening yourself up to things that you really don't have a lot of control over sometimes. So it's really good to protect yourself and be with somebody that knows what they're doing and that has experience. So yes, 100%. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Since you
Yeah.
just met Annette, well, you know what? Before I give you over to Annette, I know she's got some
Hmm.
things she wants to talk to you about.
Hmm.
You probably already answered this question, but it's been a while since we spoke, and for the
Yeah.
life of me, I couldn't remember.
Hmm.
Whatever, I know you're a very thorough person, and you're kind of like, once you decide that you need to find the answer to something, you're pretty relentless until you get that
Hmm.
answer.
Hmm.
What did you ever figure out why that spirit came to you when you were young and visited you for 6 months, and why then all of a sudden it stopped? Did you ever go back and try and research that and come up with answers to that?
No, actually, I have not. That's something that's still a question mark in my life, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to confront that part of my life. But I will say this: it's something that it's always been at the back of my head, and it's always been eating at me. So yes, it's something that I do want to one day kind of rip the scab off of, as they would say, and kind of get into it. But no, I have not done that as of yet. I do want
Yes.
to do it though.
The
Yeah,
reason why I brought it up was for some strange reason this whole week, that's all
hmm
I've been thinking about when it comes to.
yeah,
When I think about you, I think about that. I think there's
hmm
something happening there, and I think it's something. It may be an old wound you need to reopen in order to
yeah,
get some
yeah.
closure in your life.
It's weird because before I'm not psychic. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm not a medium. I'm not any of that stuff. But I will tell you this: things start happening around my life during certain times, and I see things that are indicators that sometimes something bad might happen. So I'm very aware of my surroundings and aware of the things that are happening around me. Because of that, I've become very sensitive to that. So I'm not saying that I predict anything. I'm just saying that there are certain times in my life where I do feel that are things that are around me that I know something maybe negative might be happening or trying to attach itself to me or whatever the case may be. But I do feel it and I am sensitive to it. But I kind of keep it to myself. I don't try to involve anybody else because I don't want to bring anybody else into that circle of what's going on with me currently too. I don't want anybody to share that trauma or issues or whatsoever or be exposed to it. So yeah, it does happen to me once in a while, and it's just and I think that does have to do with that original entity that visited me for that time when I was young.
Do you mind if I ask again, and forgive me if I've already asked you this?
No,
What
please.
what did that entity look like? What was that like?
It was a child. It was a young girl. It was basically the outline of a silhouette of a young woman in a dress. Um, I could see it with my eyes closed, my eyes open, whatever. It'll never escape me. And it would visit me for 6 months, about a good 6 months. And it affected me as a child because I wasn't sure if I was going crazy. It's really hard to kind of like, as growing up as an adolescent, you're trying to figure out everything as a young kid, and having that extra layer added onto everything, it becomes a little bit difficult. But I was able to kind of figure it out and know its place and kind of like say, okay, yeah, you're there, but not give too much attention or energy to it, because when you do that, then I think you kind of charge the things a lot more and just ends up being a big problem. So I was glad I was able to do that at a young age and kind of like keep things at arm's length, as they say.
Yeah, Annette knows all too well that giving energy to stuff because she edits and publishes a lot of paranormal books, and
Mm,
usually a lot of things can be attached to that material when it arrives to
Yeah.
her. So she's
100%.
got no choice. She's like, a captive audience trying to edit and work and publish these books. She's
Mhm.
constantly, it's a snowball effect, giving energy to
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Some
Yeah.
of the craziest things have happened. And it's like I don't become part of the story, but in a way, whatever it is, if it does not want that story going out in the world,
Hmm.
then it starts to give me a hard time. And
Hmm.
some of it is scary, some of it now is just kind of annoying. But I mean, I've gone in to work on a book and all the pictures are upside down now. All the
Yeah.
page numbers are scrambled up now. And I have to take my time and I have to get it all fixed. And curiously, once the book is released out into the world and they haven't been able to stop it, it's over. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
just something doesn't want that to go out. It's not every book I do, but
Hmm.
something doesn't want it to go out. And then, I have to deal with the weird things. But
Hmm. Yeah, and it happens, and I understand your plight in that, because in the podcasting world, and you're talking about these things all the time. You know what I mean? Like show after show after show after show, you start to get affected as well, and you start to see things, and sometimes you'll have a guess and nothing works. All of
yeah,
a sudden, the guest gets dropped off, nothing works. The whole network drops. Your computer
yeah.
crashes. You're like, everything was working fine 10 minutes ago. Why all of a sudden now? Is it because of the message that was coming out?
Yeah.
may be. And like you said, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it happens, and you notice it, and you're like, "Wow, okay, really?" And
One
then you
of
just have to deal
the
with it.
craziest shows I ever did back in the day, with the most interference, that the show was like basically pretty much just trash. It was down more than it was up. The communication was bad. And I'm not even sure I want to say the word of what the show is about, but well, the actual word is jinn, the jinn.
Oh,
And
yeah,
those
okay,
are
yeah,
Middle Eastern demonic.
yeah, spirits,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that's what the lady wrote a book about.
Mhm.
And, we talked about it once. I don't feel like we need to talk about that.
Well, it does happen. Like I said, it's happened, and I've been, doing my show for now over 7 years now, and I can tell you it's probably happened where on 3 different occasions where either the audio of the guest will not show up, just just not show up. Like I'll be talking, but the guests, you'll just see their mouths moving, and there's just no audio, and that
Mhm,
never happens. So it's like there's no
mhm,
reason for that.
mhm,
That's happened on more than one occasion. Another occasion where the guests, their camera would just be all staticky,
mhm,
just completely static constantly.
mhm.
That's happened on more than one occasion. Yeah, so we've had all kinds of stuff. Even my co-host Jay, who's my best friend, we've been best friends for over 30 years, since 10 years old. Um, he his father passed away some time ago, and his father came through actually on a episode. His voice actually came through
Wow.
on yeah,
Wow.
and yeah, that's pretty powerful. And then,
That
it's
is.
tough for a host, on a podcast, because you're like, you believe in some of the stuff, right? And he's more of a skeptic than I am. I'm a completely believer. You have me completely, hook, line, and sinker. My co-host, on the other hand, he is more of a skeptic, and he's not so much of a believer, and he's always questions everything, which is great because it gives us a good dynamic. But when he heard that affected him. That
Yeah.
affected him, and I can tell you, it wasn't good. You know what I mean? And you had to kind of like process that and go through it, and it all.
Did that happen in real time, or did you guys hear that in reviewing the show later?
This happened in real time, and that usually doesn't happen. You know what I mean? You usually hear it after the fact. No, we heard it during real time,
What were you guys
and
discussing at the time?
we were discussing something about loved ones in past, and they how sometimes they come back and give you messages and things of that nature. And next thing you know, we just heard this like voice come over, like, and it just sounded like his father, because his father had a very distinct voice. He has a very low, gravel type of voice. The guy weighed about 135 pounds soaking wet, but he had this like gravelly voice, like almost like, a Sam Elliott kind of guy, you know what I mean? Just something like, real deep, and guttural. And we heard it, and we're like, whoa. We were taken back, because, that was just wild. But yeah, we've had that. We've had, EVPs that popped up after the fact that we haven't even, had no idea that was happening. We've had all kinds of stuff happen on the show, but yeah, you open yourself up to a lot of stuff when you start talking about those subject matters.
I always know that I risk that when I bring on truly gifted psychic mediums as a guest on the show, that sometimes
Mhm.
messages come through to them for me, and they just have to, many of them, they can't continue on until they get that message out. And so I've been hit before with some messages from people that I know there's no way that person could have known that without
Mhm.
saying that to me,
Mhm.
through other means of transportation or communication. And
Communication,
it
right?
sometimes it's hard to continue on doing the show.
Hmm. Yeah, it does rock you. It does rock you, and then you have to kind of like get your step and footing back, and kind of circle and center yourself. And yeah, it's tough, because when you start hearing things that people are not supposed to know, and then they start telling you things, you're like, okay, hey, listen, okay, yeah, it kind of throws you for a loop. So I understand. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let Annette chat with you for a little bit.
All right.
Well, I was going to ask you about your recent ghost hunting trip. And
Yes.
I looked
Yeah.
up that cemetery, and that's kind of by Palm Springs area-ish.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like
In
the
Florida.
closest bigger town.
Yeah.
And do you have paranormal investigations all around Florida?
So yeah, I've been trying to get out as much as possible in my area. There's certain places that I have actually investigated around the area. I've done Glades Correctional Facility, which was an old prison that's now completely demolished and not here anymore. But I've done that place a couple of times. There's also a place in Hope Sound, Florida, which is a little north of here. And there's the Devil's Tree. We've investigated that. That's a tree that there was a serial killer back in the day, John Gerard Schaefer, who was also a sheriff's officer who killed women and hung them from this particular tree. And so that place is powerful. I can tell you that. As soon as you walk into that area, it's so weird because if you're from Florida or if you go outdoors enough, you hear the environment, you hear the Mother Nature, you hear the bugs, you hear the birds, you hear everything, right? Once you get to this particular part of the park and where this tree is, everything is like completely silent. You don't hear a lizard, and that's not normal for Florida, especially in Florida, because there's a lot of different types of animals. And once you get there, it's super creepy and very quiet, and it's like it's in its own void, in its own world, and it's very creepy. So yeah, I've been there, and then yes, my latest investigation just kind of happened by accident, to be quite honest with you. Living in this town that I live in, Boynton Beach, Florida. What's the first place that anybody who's invested, like your first question or your mailbag question here, the second one, the guy asks, hey, I want to be a ghost hunter. What do I do? Where do I start? I did the stupid thing. I just said, hey, I'm just going to go out there and go, right? Yeah, that didn't work out too well. I learned very quickly. But in my area, I was like, hey, let me go check out the cemetery, right? That's usually the place that you go check out. So there was the local cemetery, which everybody knew where it was. It's pretty big. And, I started noticing that, there was a lot of people in that cemetery, but there wasn't like many African-American people. So I was really wondering about that. And I was like, this is very strange. So as I started doing more research about the history of the town and so on and so forth, I realized that they actually didn't bury African-American people in that particular area because it was just segregated. Just during that time, segregation was still a thing, and they did not bury any African-American people there at all. And so I obviously had to do some more research. I was like, so where do they put these people? What happened, right? So next thing I find out that there is a actual, at the time, an area that's pretty much, if I could describe it to you what it looks like now, imagine a highway, a major highway, with a wall, one of those sound barrier walls parallel to it. And on the other side of that wall is a complete full neighborhood. But right before that neighborhood is a little park that sits right there. And it's an actual cemetery where all the African-American people were actually buried. It was just basically they were buried on top of each other. It was basically a dump. Yeah. Yeah. So we're talking about probably, I would say 50 to maybe 150 years of people just being dumped at this one particular area, right? And this is only an area maybe about the size of a half an acre. It was originally called Cherry Hill. That was the name of the area. And everybody knows it here locally as that. And again, the park is named after Alton Brown, and that's why it's called Alton Barton, I'm sorry. And that's why it's called Barton Memorial Park. And Alton Barton was a kid who died, I think, at the age of 6. So he didn't live very long. And he was buried in that area. And his mother knew that, of course, he was buried there, but she also wanted to make sure that that area was taken care of. So, she petitioned the city. The city made it into a park. There's about, I would say, 15 headstones that are still there in this area. It's literally like a small cemetery and then houses built all around it and a park, like a little trail park right there. So it's literally sat behind next to a house and between that and the sound barrier of the highway. And so it's a really interesting area. Again, I decided to go out there and do an investigation. I went to actually Alton Barton's tombstone and burial site. And I can tell you what, the energy that I felt there, it was off the charts. I mean, I had my I had my reader out there, and it was spiking up to 1.3, 1.4 for no reason. I'm out in the middle of nowhere in the cemetery. There's no reason for my reader to go up that high. There's no equipment that would interfere with it. I'm just sitting there by myself in the middle of nowhere. And so, yeah, sitting there, I started to really feel a lot of the energy that's going on there. And there's so much more with this area. I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is.
And I've experienced that before, what you were saying, that phenomenon, and it is so creepy. It's happened a couple of times, but the one that scared me the worst was at this bridge in Ohio that was close to my grandma's neighborhood. And it has a legend to it, like a lot of bridges do. And we were out there on the anniversary of the accident that happened. And the story is being told, which is creepy enough. But then all of a sudden, the wind stops, no more crickets, no more nothing, complete stillness. And you just sort of feel it in your body, like, ooh. It's very tangible that you can feel it. It's not just, oh, isn't that funny that it seems kind of quiet? No, it's not like that at all. It's just kind of like, you just know. And we got out of there. We just left. That's enough story. Great story. Let's go. But it's such a real thing. And if you ever experience it, you won't forget, because it really is. It's very tangible.
Yeah, very tangible. And that area too, is, like I said, is so energy driven. And then there's a huge banyan tree that's been there since God knows when. It's at least a couple hundred years old. You can tell by how big it is. I mean, banyan trees don't grow that big unless they've been there for a long time. And there's actual grave sites in the banyan tree. Like, there's actual headstones in the banyan tree. And the actual local college, FAU, Florida Atlantic University, their science team actually came down there into this area, and they actually did some LiDAR readings, ground penetrating LiDAR. And they said there was over 50 to 100 anomalies under the ground that they can't figure out. So that's at least bodies, obviously, that's down there. And it's just, again, it's an area that was used for a dump, basically, before anybody realized that it was a cemetery. So there's a lot of trauma, a lot of things that are going on. The people that actually came here, migrated to this area during that time, were from the Bahamas as well. So they brought over a lot of that kind of like Santeria, voodoo kind of thing that was going on as well. So there's a lot of that feeling there too. It's just like, it feels like that area is protected by something. I don't know what. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's protected by something. And I did a full investigation. You guys are the first. I'm breaking this new news now. I mean, I've not even talked about this at all to anybody. But we're going to be coming out with more and more evidence and stuff like that once I get all the editing done. But yeah, this is a very crazy area. Literally not even 2 miles away from my house.
Wow.
Yeah, just amazing.
Quickly say hi to Tammy and Michelle that
hello, Tammy. Hello, Michelle.
Today, and sending little messages. Hello, and Father Shawn, amazing show Tuesday night with Lala and Science Bob. So that's great. That's from Tammy. But that's such an interesting area, and there is a cultural element attached to it, and that makes it even, I think, harder to maybe comprehend all of the components that might have gone into, what's still there. I'm like you. I believe I'm just totally a believer. I think we live 1 foot in the spiritual realm all day, every day, 24/7. If somebody says, "Oh, I live by this old Civil War battleground and I think it's haunted," I'm like, "Of course that's haunted." You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's intuition?
Right.
That's why I say to everybody, right? What is intuition? What is that when you go into some place and you feel like, "Oh, I don't think I should be here"? right?
You know what place
Or you
felt
go
like
around a corner and you're like, you know what? This doesn't seem right. Like what is that? I think you're communicating with things outside of this world because you're able to, you're able to sense something that's not being able to sense with your normal five senses, your eyes, all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's what you're doing.
Well, there's a book that I read that's one of my favorite books, and it's called Newton Message Down Under. And without going way into it, a doctor goes on a walkabout with the Aborigines in Australia, and they just walk out into the desert. They do this all the time. And she's asking, you guys like communicate and you're not speaking, and you pray for food, you find food, you pray for water, you find water. The women heal people of things that they shouldn't be able to get up and walk and keep going, and yet they do all of this stuff, to make a long story short. And she asked, why is that? And he said, no, she said, how do you do all of this? How do you? And he said, this is the way people are supposed to be. You're the mutants because your head's so full of your everyday life. You don't spend enough time in nature. And so you've broken away from your natural abilities. So therefore, I believe that too, because why would that not be true? And the animals and the birds and the fish, they all instinctively know how to survive and survive together in groups. And yet we've broken that off in ourselves just by constantly our minds full of our day in and day out life. But like if you go somewhere and you can feel that somebody's staring at you and you turn around, there they are. You shouldn't know that. You shouldn't know somebody's staring at the back of your head, but you know it. You feel it, and they're there. So we have these abilities, but they're kind of pushed down. So people that are psychic, they're not really the anomaly. They're people that their abilities flourish. Now, having said all that, I think that people that have experiences with the paranormal, I think that on a spiritual level, they know this. And then you continue to have experiences. And then if you go someplace, they'll be like, oh, yeah, that one over there. He'll hear you. He'll see you, and they can tell. And I think that that's how people continuously, although you can kind of calm it down, but I think they can tell. So like in your situation, you started when you're 5, having experiences. Well, if we went on I wouldn't do it, but if we went on a lock-in overnight to Eastern Penitentiary and somebody said, wow, I think something's probably going to happen. It's like, something's going to happen, I mean, I just know for sure something's going to, are you kidding? Something's going to happen. How much is this PTSD going to cost me, right? Because once you're kind of, I don't know if I want to say you've experienced things, your energy's different. Your energy is different. Some people never experience anything. They don't really believe in it. I had a great experience with my ex because he never believed in it. And he was patronizing, and he'd be like, I believe that you believe that you saw something, and kind of like pat on the head.
Yeah.
One day we're in the kitchen at the counter, and he's on one side, I'm on the other side, and his keys are over here, and they're just like 6 inches, or just like that. And he's like, oh my God, did you see that? And I'm like, there you go. Have some. That's for you.
Yep, there you go.
And,
Go.
It was like, he was completely freaking out. But for me, that was validation. It's like, I told you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that never happens for people. Even people that seek it out, they never see or experience anything. They just don't. And then others of us, we live kind of 1 foot in that world of spirits and angels and all kinds of things that we don't even know what they are.
Yeah. We've actually talked about this before with Rev, and I think we've talked about this ad nauseum, but I'll bring it up again. People that have actually had near-death experiences as well. I think have that ability too, because they have been, they've seen things, they've gone to the other side, or they've touched the other side, or they may pierce the veil at some point, during that near that experience. And I think those people also have that, and are exposed to that because they were so close to it. So that's another thing.
Yeah, they're once they something happens,
Hmm.
traumatic or otherwise, and they
Yeah.
cross over and then come back, their energy, I believe, leaves sort of like a breadcrumb trail,
Mhm.
and for other entities to follow. You look different. I think
You
people that
do.
are NDE survivors, they look different to the spirit world,
Hmm.
and that's why they get followed. I have an interesting two-part question for you.
Yeah.
It's funny that we're talking about cemeteries here because
Yeah.
many years ago, I used to give ghost tours of a pet cemetery here in town, and a lot of teams train their new investigators at cemeteries. Some people, there's two groups. Some people
Hmm.
say cemeteries are not haunted. Why would a ghost want to stay where their body is? They want to go to where they had memories in life, places they're attached to, so they're not haunted. Then you have the group that thinks cemeteries are haunted off the charts. So I wanted your opinion
Hmm.
on cemeteries in general and training people there. And
Hmm.
then I'm sure we all have that one story. I've got a couple of them. Have you ever
Hmm.
had that one incident happen to you that was so frightening you thought to yourself, you know what? I don't need this in my life. I think I'm done doing this.
Yeah. Okay. So to answer question number one, the cemetery question. Okay. So I think cemeteries are haunted. I believe that spirits and people, are just like people. Spirits are people, right? So if somebody is a narcissist, let's say, and they are like one of those beautiful people and they enjoy being that beautiful person, of course they're going to want to stick to their body, right? They're going to want to stay with their body. They're going to say, "Hey, listen, that's my body. I want to be there. That's who I am." So I think that has a lot to do with it too. I think it really depends on the spirit itself if they want to still be attached to their body. Um, some of them do cross over. Some of them don't. So I think that's a 50-50 chance when you're at a cemetery. But training somebody at a cemetery, you know what? I have mixed feelings about that because you already go into a cemetery thinking you're gonna either hear something or see something or whatever the case may be, right? So you kind of go into that mentality. Oh, okay, it's a cemetery. I'm going to see. All right, I'll hear something, right? I'm sure, whatever, right? But if you go into that mentality and then and nothing happens, then right, what happens after that? And you're like, oh, okay, nothing happened. But then you go a second time and then something happens, right? And a third time, something happens, and a fourth time, something happens. So when it comes to somebody that to train them in a cemetery, I think it's too charged for me, in my opinion, to put a new person in that environment. I would rather put somebody in an environment where maybe something did happen and see if they can pick up on it. Maybe a neutral location, but a cemetery, I think it's just way too charged for a beginner to get their feet wet in a situation like that, in my opinion. So I think that kind of answers that question as far as the beginner cemetery question goes. But the second question, yeah, listen, I I've seen things like you, Rev. I've had situations where I've seen things manifest themselves in mirrors. I've seen things where I was like, you know what, I've had enough. This one particular incident, and I'll explain it to you what happened here. Um, this happened. This incident happened after a particular loved one passed away, and I was just fooling around, you know, uh, out back of the house and just fooling around with the ITC device and just messing around, asking questions, and then I heard this voice come through this device where I literally had to turn off the device, go inside, and kind of like go into the shower and kind of like center myself and meditate and get away from everything. I heard this voice that came over the ITC device. It was the most terrifying voice that I've ever heard in my entire life. And it said something to me that it only pertained to me, that I would only know. If I said it to you, you would be like, what does that mean? Right. It doesn't mean anything to you, but it means something to me. Um, and once I heard this voice come over, I just started bawling, and I turned off the device. And then I had to go inside. And once I went inside and kind of said it to myself, it kind of helped. But when I got out of the shower and got myself clothed and kind of sat down and revisited this whole thing that happened to me in my head, the ITC device turned on again, and I heard the voice again. And then I had to get rid of it at that point. So I don't know if it was the device itself that was, as you could say, haunted or whatever, or some type of attachment was on the device itself, or it was me, or I had to get rid of the device. I got rid of the device, and that was it. I never got another device like that ever again. But it frightened me so much where I had to let it go. I had to leave it alone and just like, okay, walk away. And that doesn't happen to me at all. I love, when I do investigations, especially if it's something like a bad thing, like especially like, the devil's tree and somebody like a really bad entity that did something, a person, their spirit, I'll provoke that, because to me, that person did wrong already. I don't have to, you know what I mean? I can provoke that thing, you know what I mean? So, and I can protect myself at the same time, but that I couldn't deal with, and I had to walk away. And look, still to this day, I mean, the hairs on my arms just, it was too much for me.
Does your co-host, your buddy who's the skeptic, does he investigate with you?
He kind of goes sometimes. He doesn't like to. He does not like it at all. He gets very uncomfortable very easily, and but he has been on a couple of them with me, and he's heard them himself, and he's like, yeah. And, he's been on, like I said, the show with me, and he's heard his dad come through, vocally over the podcast. And we're just like, whoa. And, he's become more sensitive to it and more of a believer over time. Now that, we've kind of peeled back the onion and talked about it. But, it's just really kind of like realizing that the signs are out there too. You know what I mean? There's things that happen. There's, you hear, if you really listen, you'll hear, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you just got to learn how to, they're there to see, they're there to hear. You just got to learn how to see them and hear them. And, so many people complain to me about, I don't want to go there anymore because every time I go there, nothing ever happens. Well, eventually it will. If the spirit really wants to be seen and wants to be heard, they'll make it happen. And so you just got to keep doing what you do. In the 5 minutes or so we have left before I got to kick you out of here, I want to make sure everybody knows everything about you. Tell everybody about Dark Fringe Radio.
Yeah.
Tell everybody about your book.
Well, it hasn't come out yet, and I appreciate you telling everybody that it came out yet, but it has not come out yet. It will be out by the end of the year. No, that's okay. But that's great, and I'm breaking it here. Nobody else knows about this. This is the first time everybody knows. This is something I've been working on for the last year. It's called Whispers in the Darkness, Tales of the Macabre and the Supernatural. And this is an anthology. Well, it's kind of like a bunch of stories into one book. I've always been a fan of those types of books. H.P. Lovecraft fan, all those types of books. And I grew up watching, what is it called? Creep Show, and the different types of stories all built into one movie. So I decided I was going to do a book like that, and it's completely all over the place. But I did actually write one story that actually pertains to this investigation that I'm talking about here. And I put a twist on it. And so that'll be in the book about this investigation. And then I talk about a lot of different things. That particular story is called The Incident at Cherry Hill. And of course, that's of course the name of the place. But I also have one story called The Voodoo Curse, another one called Piercing the Veil. The Voodoo Curse is actually really interesting. Death's Reflection, that's also another one that I have. It's about a haunted mirror. That's all I can say. I don't want to get too much into it. But yeah, a bunch of different stories. And I put it all together because I was like, what kind of book am I going to write? I'm like, I like a little bit about everything. So it's not, it's not the same type of normal, supernatural, scary horror book that's out there. It's a little bit of everything. So I put that together, and I'm still putting it together, and I'm almost done, and it should be out by the end of the year. So yes. And also Dark Fringe Radio. You can check out all our stuff at darkfringeradio.com. We're constantly putting out new episodes. Last week we had Kevin Thompson, who is an author of a book called The UFO Paradox. So we get into a little bit about UFOs and stuff like that. Very interesting stuff. So you can check out all our stuff at darkfringeradio.com and wherever where you hear podcasts, Apple, iTunes, all that stuff everywhere.
Very, very, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Annette, what did you think of our meeting our guest today?
He's fascinating and you're so easy and fun to talk to.
Oh,
and you're really in your element being a radio host because just very easy to chat with and the conversation flows and all kinds of good stories and information. And I'm sure everybody enjoyed having you.
Thank you, Annette.
Well, as soon as I posted the banner, letting everybody know you were going to be on, I get a lot of people reaching out to me. I love Will. Will's cool.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Stuff. So, well, you've been around for a while. You are also. I always forgive me for forgetting her name.
Emily Menshouse Stakely.
Boom.
There you go. Yeah.
Are you still doing a show with her?
Absolutely. Actually, we're doing a show later on tonight. So, you can check us out there at, What the Frick Live. That's the name of the show. Crazy
same
name.
Show, same name.
Yeah, same name. Yeah. And so, we're on still Friday nights at 7 o'clock. We do a show from 7 to 8 on Facebook. And we're still rocking it there. So, I love to kind of, get myself around and do a lot of different shows. I've been doing her show for years now. I'm doing my show for 7 years now.
You have been doing her show for years.
Yeah.
Tell her I said hi.
It. I will. We have to have you come back on too.
Is she still having a lot of man problems?
Not so much anymore. So thank God for that. Yeah, that was
I did a lot of praying for her that she'd find Mr. Right one of these days. And not so much drama all the time with.
Yeah. But thank God that's died down. Yeah.
Well, before I kick you out of here, one last question. Mirrors.
Please.
Oh, my gosh. I don't think I've gone into a place that I knew either definitely had one or more disembodied human spirits there or something worse. And the evidence I've captured taking photos into mirrors has been pretty amazing. Do you think they can actually be haunted and have attachments to them, and that's just it? Or do you think mirrors are truly portals? Because some people, they won't have them in their home. They'll put them on the outside of the front door facing out, or they'll constantly cover them up in the house, especially if there's a death in the family. What do you think's going on with mirrors?
Both. I say they can be haunted and they are portals. Absolutely. First thing you come into my house, there's a mirror facing out. Reason why I believe things can follow you inside your house. So I believe that if there is a mirror there, that entity will see its reflection and will not enter the house. That is my personal belief. I'm not saying that anybody has to believe that or anything. That's just me. Also in the front of my house, I have an altar of all my family members who have passed on, all their pictures. It's basically a huge bookshelf with all their pictures and candles and everything and lights and everything that I need to put there to illuminate them and make sure that I cherish my ancestors and make sure that I give respect to them and ask for their guidance, because to me, they're the ones who've already crossed over, right? They're the ones who are on the other side. Who else better to ask for help than your loved ones who already have crossed over? So, I would think they would have your best interest at heart. And so I do believe, yes, mirrors can be portals. I've seen things in mirrors that should not be in a mirror. And I think that sometimes, a mirror put in the right circumstance and have enough energy, I think it could be a portal. But it also, an attachment can happen to a mirror as well. Just like anything, anybody could be infatuated with an item or any kind of, just anything, right? And then you become infatuated so much, you become obsessed. You put that energy into that item, that thing, and then you start to give it life in a weird way. So yeah, I think both.
I actually have a haunted mirror story myself. At this one apartment that I lived in the bathroom, it faced out towards a hallway, and you could see a guy walking by when you're looking in the mirror, but when you turn around, nobody's there. That was so creepy. I ended up covering up the mirror. I brushed my teeth looking in the microwave for my reflection.
I'm sorry, that's horrible. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. The supernatural makes you do things.
Right.
I love you and respect you, brother. You know that.
You.
I'm going to have you. I'll reach out to you again with some dates after the first of the year to have you back.
Please
give Emily my best. Maybe I'll have you and Emily both back on together. Yeah. I think Annette would love Emily. I think they would really get along. And I haven't talked to her in a long time. I miss her. And I always remember her when I talk to you. And then afterwards I forget. But I'm going to make myself a note not to forget her and reach out to her. But
we'll connect
thank you so much. Very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you
for being here today, brother. And have a great remainder to your Friday evening. And keep doing what you're doing, brother. You rock. And I'll be in touch.
Thank you. God bless you and everybody that's listening. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. We'll see you later.
All right.
Will Martinez. Cool dude.
What a great conversation. It was so much fun.
You ready for this joke of this week?
Okay.
Okay. A bunch of people sent me jokes this week. This better be a good one. What's the difference between a poorly dressed man on a tricycle and a well-dressed man on a bicycle?
What?
A tire.
A tire. Oh. I am a pun girl, though. I have to say, I do love a pun. That's a groaner, though.
You're going to love next week's ghost. Again, ghost.
We have an actual
Who's
ghost.
going to come with a lot of ghosts? She is a celebrity psychic medium. Everybody knows her and loves her. She's been on a lot of TV shows. Karen Reese.
Nice.
Will be here next week. So that's going to be a show on the 11th, Friday, October 11th. I love you and respect you too. Thank you for being here. Couldn't do it without you. And have a great, feel better. Have a great remainder to your Friday evening. And I know you and I will be talking between now and next Friday.
We will, and it was my pleasure, and I really enjoyed the show, and thanks everyone for listening.
I love you. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Annette Munich, my co-host. That's why you do a show like this if you got a good co-host. If not, then don't do one. I want to take this opportunity to thank United Public Radio Network, UPRN 107.7 FM, New Orleans, for carrying my show. God bless them. God bless Michelle Derche for making that possible. And she's always around in the mix, making sure my show runs smooth. So God bless her. And God bless each and every one of you for tuning in, like I said. And I mean this. I don't have a show without you guys. So God bless you all for doing that. What else do I want to say to you guys? Brothers and sisters, remember, we may have done what the devil said we did, but we are not who the devil says we are. Don't go anywhere, because coming up next is Spirit Switchboard with Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. I love you all. Good night, Danny. Good night, Jack. Good night, Dog. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. God bless you all in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Peace.